Maybe want to mute some microphones here. You can hear some noise. All right, are we ready? Okay, I think we're ready. So today is March the 2nd, 2024. Welcome to the Buddhism Journey for young adults and college students. Reminder, please turn on your video so we can see you. Please mute your microphone. Be respectful to the Dharma Master and everyone. Dress neatly and appropriately. So today our Dharma Master is Geshe Ngawang Phende. Born in Nepal in 1968, at the age of 12, Geshe La became a monk at Druptab Rinpoche's monastery in Nepal for 2 years, where he received his initial monastic training. Geshe La joined Drepung Losling Monastery, South India in 1982 at the age of 14, where he successfully completed his monastic education and passed Geshe Larampa examination in 2001. Geshe La then attended Gume Monastery for further tantric studies and stayed there for a year. Geshe La was the resident teacher at the Lam Rim Tibetan Buddhist Center in Johannesburg, South Africa for almost 4 years. Twice, Geshe La has been on the Mystical Arts of Tibet tour, and now, currently, is one of the resident teachers at the Drepung Losling Monastery in Atlanta. And some opening prayers, the 3 refuges, the 3 jewels of Buddhism. To the Buddha, I return and rely, vowing that all living beings understand the Great Way profoundly and bring forth the Bodhi mind. To the Dharma, I return and rely, vowing that all living beings deeply enter the Sutra treasury and have wisdom like the sea. To the Sangha, I return and rely, vowing that all living beings form together a great assembly, one and all in harmony. And I think we go to our speaker today, Geshe La.
Okay. Thank you very much, and very nice to see you all. And today the topic which I'm going to talk on, how to become a real Buddhist. So this topic is very important for the Buddhist who consider themselves as a Buddhist, and also it's important for the people who interest about Buddhism. So what's real Buddhist means? I think it's quite important. So the first, of course, any religion in this planet, our common goals are the same, which is the happiness, no doubt, right? So the people engage or adopt the religion for overcome suffering, achieve happiness. That's the common. So now, when we talk about achieving happiness, and also when we talk about happiness, what that really means, happiness means, and how should we achieve that happiness? So in general, in the what you call general perspective, people seeking happiness through materials. So we use the material through that to reach the happiness. And the another side, happiness through the mind. So how should we reach the happiness through the mind? So I think the religions are more focused on second solution, and through the mind, how should we reach happiness? But the purpose I mentioned earlier, all of them has the same common purposes to achieve happiness. And as human beings, we have we call the innate natural desires, which is wish to be happy, peace, right? Wish to happy is not influenced by religions or cultures or what you call your families and friends. Wish to live happy, we have since you birth, right? We have that desire since you birth. For instance, the newborn baby, as soon as she suffer, she cry. When she happy, she smile, or she remain quiet and sleep. So through her body language, we know this little baby do not want sufferings, and she wants to live happy. Any movement of her body is for happiness. So that kind of desire, since birth, we have that. And wish to live happy, that desire never change. It's remain same. Till your death, right? It remains same. So that is why it's called innate natural desires. Wish to live happy, that desire is innate natural desire. It's not influenced by any other causes or conditions. We do have many secondary desires. For instance, wants to be what you call doctors, wants to be lawyers, wants to eat this food, wants to wear this kind of dress. Then after change, you do not want to eat this food. You do not want to wear this dress. You do not want to be doctor. You want to change your lifestyle. So secondary desires change. It's not 100% reliable, right? And that desire can influence by our families or some other people. But the fundamental desires, they never change. It's remained same. So because of being a human who wants to live happy and peace, that's why we're searching happiness, right? We're searching the happiness. So now, first, as human beings, one of our, what you call the responsibility is to achieve happiness, to live happy, right? Based on your own interest. So in order to achieve happiness, first, what's that really means? Happiness, which means what? That's the very kind of the important question, because we're doing for happiness, right? You're adopting any religious faith, you're adopting any lifestyle is for happiness. What that mean? Happiness, which means what? To have money, is that the happiness? Or to have a power, is that the happiness? Or to have a good reputation, becoming superstar, is that means the happiness? What is that happiness, right? What's mean by happiness? I mentioned earlier, in general perspective, happiness, which means to have money, right? To have power, to have good reputation, fame. That's how they think. So they put all the effort for rich, for becoming famous, right? Becoming powerful person. So you put your effort to achieve this material happiness. That's the general, everybody think that way. But from the Buddhist perspective, happiness is not only the material happiness. So what is real happiness for the Buddhist? perspective. In order to understand that, first, you need to understand what's meant by suffering. What's mean sufferings? So happiness, which is called the freedom of the suffering, right? The cessations of your sufferings. But first, what's meant by the sufferings? So this is very, very important, what you call the knowledge for the Buddhist. That is why when Prince Siddhartha, when he achieved Buddhahood, age of 35, right? When he achieved Buddhahood, first, what he shared to others, what he teach others, he teach sufferings, right? Four Noble Truths. You may have studied that in the previous, the teachers. So the among the Four Noble Truths, the first called truth of suffering, right? So why Buddha teach truth of sufferings? Because the purpose of to becoming Buddhist or any religious is for happiness. So happiness, what that really mean? If you think happiness means rich, then why you have to go to Buddhist religion? Rather, you should go to becoming businessman. Then you can make good money, right? Go to the temple, you will not going to make money. So then what's the purpose? So if you do not understanding the suffering clear, then you will not understanding the happiness. If you don't understand the real happiness, you may not understanding what's meant by Buddhism. Or you may think I'm practicing Buddha Dharma, but actually you may not doing the practice Buddha Dharma, right? So that is why in order to understanding the real happiness, you need to understanding the sufferings. So you may know the suffering, right? What previous teacher, they already explained that for Noble Truth. Therefore, I'm here focus is the to understanding the happiness correctly, then you may appreciate the Buddha Dharma. If you're not understanding happiness correctly, then Buddhism or Buddha Dharma is some kind of miracle, some kind of blessing, or some kind of what you call the power. So just prayer and there might be some blessing, you will receive this, you will receive that. Then your practice is kind of the becoming like similar, like a materialistic way of practice, similar like that. That is why the Buddha first taught the sufferings, right? So the suffering, when you divide it, generally you can go hundreds of thousands different type of the suffering, but he gives a very simple kind of all of those suffering, put it into three categories. First called suffering of sufferings, which are suffering of war, suffering of aging, suffering of sickness, suffering of death and dying, stress, depression, fear, worry, all kinds of suffering, which is everybody knows as sufferings. There's secondary level of suffering, which is called suffering of changing. Suffering of changing is not easy to understand. Suffering of changing, which means when they appear, when you got it first, looks like it makes you happy, but it's not remain as a happiness. It will slowly turn into sufferings. That's what I call suffering of changing, which are the mundane pleasures, samsaric pleasures, called the suffering of changing. But the majority people who don't understanding the Buddhism may think this is still happiness. So you put all effort to reach that happiness. suffering of changing actually. So, for instance, suffering of changing, which means like the person who's thinking, if I found this job, I will be really happy, right? They put so much effort. They got their job. First, they're happy, but it will not remain as a happiness. Slowly, 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 it will turn into sufferings, which means I'm stressed now because of this job, right? Before, you have suffering of not have this job. Now, when you got it, you suffer because of this job. So that kind of happiness, it's not the kind of the true happiness. It appears like a happiness. Slowly, slowly, it will turn into suffering. Most of the mundane pleasures, as a maybe teenage, some of them maybe searching, looking to find boyfriends or girlfriends. So not having boyfriend and girlfriends, you may not happy, you may suffer, right? Then finally you found it. Now you have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend. Slowly, because of boyfriend, because of girlfriend, you suffer, right? Not having them, suffer because of having them, suffer. Then not found the husband and wife, you suffer because of wife, because of husband, you suffer. Then next, not having children, you suffer because of children, you suffer. So all of these, the suffering we feel first, these are the happiness. So ourselves put our effort to have them. When you got it, it's not remain as a happiness. It turned into sufferings. That's called suffering of changing. So that would call mundane pleasure. Because of money, you suffer. Not having money, suffer because of money, suffer. Not having power, you suffer because of the power, you suffer, right? Not having fame and reputation, you suffer because of your fame and reputation, you will be suffer. People who do not have that much reputation or fame, they may think this is crazy. But when you really become superstar, then you will understanding the many suffering you will experience when you are not superstar. You don't have that problems. So all of these kind of pleasure is called suffering of changing. So human mind can able to, if you really carefully, you can understand. Animals, difficult to know these kind of things are suffering, right? Then the one of the most difficult part of the suffering is called the third suffering, suffering of pervasive conditioning. So that's the most important for the Buddhists to understand that. Suffering of pervasive conditioning, what that really means your body, right? The body you have, we call contaminated 5 aggregates, right? 5 contaminated aggregates. Contaminated your body or forms, feeling, discrimination, mental factors, consciousness. These are called 5 aggregates, right? So contaminated body means this body you have right now is meat body, right? It's not the pure. Because of remain with this body, you will suffer suffering of aging. It's inevitable, right? Everybody have to go. Then next is called suffering of sickness, right? Then suffering of death and dying, stress, depression, all kinds of things. Because of having this kind of body. So remain with the contaminated body. What that really means as long as if you under the influence, under the power of negative karmas, and the karma causes by negative emotions, right? Called mental afflictions. So as long as if you're under the influence of mental afflictions and karma, you will experiencing suffering of pervasive conditioning. Means you will circle in samsara. So circling samsara means the person who remains with contaminated minds and body. So remain with contaminated minds and body, you always, experience physical, mental, emotional sufferings. Maybe samsara is the Sanskrit word, which means suffering of cycle existence, right? Suffering of cycle existence. If you go more detailed in the Buddhist, which called the 6 realms, 3 lower realms, 3 higher realms, right? We are born into one of these 6 realms. We are not liberated from the samsara because we are under the influence of destructive emotion, contaminated karma. That's why we circle in samsara. That kind of suffering is called suffering of pervasive conditioning, right? So now happiness, which means what? Which means freedom of these kind of suffering. So freedom of that kind of suffering, you cannot reach or you cannot achieve by money. You cannot achieve by power. You cannot achieve by your fame and reputation. Why? Because the suffering, these sufferings are created by your karma. Karma creates by your afflictions. So the money cannot change your affliction, right? Your external money cannot eliminate your anger, your attachment, your jealousy, right? The money. So therefore, mainly now, if you go like a very simple explanation, real happiness, which Buddha is talking about, the happiness, which means cessations of your destructive emotions, your afflictions, destructive emotion, which means your anger, attachments, jealousy, right? Arrogance, ego. Then if you go much deeper, your mind of self-grasping. So freedom of destructive emotion is the true peace, true happiness. That's first very, very important to know this. When Buddha, Buddhist by philosophy, it's called 4 Great Seal. Buddhist philosophy is called the 4 Great Seal. The first seal, Geshe Ngawang Phende, which means all the compounded things are impermanence, right? Second philosophy seal, Geshe Ngawang Phende, which means all the contaminated things are suffering. Third, which means all phenomena are empty or selflessness. Then the last seal, the Buddha says, the nirvana, which means cessations of destructive emotion, affliction, is the great peace. So that's how the Buddhist explanation of happiness, the real happiness, which means cessation of one's own destructive emotions. So in order to understand that happiness, we need to know all this suffering first. Then you will know what real happiness means. Today, the mundane happiness is just temporary. I mentioned earlier, it can change. First, it makes you some very enjoyable, eventually, slowly, because of that, you will be suffer, right? So therefore, the true happiness, which means the happiness will remain permanently, it never turn into suffering. When you achieved, you feel satisfied. When you live with this happiness, you will make more happier instead of change into suffering. So therefore, the true happiness, which Buddhist means, mainly freedom of your destructive emotion. That's the happiness. So now we adopting the Buddha Dharma, right? The Buddha's teaching for achieve that happiness, the true happiness, right? So this happiness, which is called the freedom of your destructive emotion. So your destructive emotion now, that freedom, how should we reach that freedom? How should you achieve that cessation? We call liberation, right? Nirvana. So how should oneself achieve that liberation? Just prayer to the Buddha, and that achieve your happiness? Or recite a mantra, or prostration to the Buddha, or the bowing to the Buddha, or offering some things to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? That's how you reach, or how, right? We need to really carefully to investigate. Simple thing is, for instance, one thing, freedom of your anger, right? Cessation of your anger, can you achieve just offering some monies or something? Through that achieved, or there's something another way, right? And the Buddha says, one of his own, what you call the word, one of the sutra is saying, Buddha do not wash away your negative karmas with water, right? Buddhas cannot wash away your bad karma. Buddha do not clear away being suffering with their hand. He cannot clear our suffering. He cannot take our suffering by his hand. Also, they do not transfer their own knowledge to us. What they can do is they liberate by teaching the truth of reality, right? So what that really means that happiness, the freedom of your destructive emotion, you have to achieve it. Not somebody will give to you. You have to achieve this. You have to put effort. You have to achieve that liberation. Now, in order to do that, first, you really need to understand, the suffering we've been experiencing are caused by your destructive emotion. Do you really know that, or you still do not these things? Our suffering because of you, because of him, because of some kind of spirit, or because of somebody else. If you're pointing to other people, then you're still not understanding real Buddhism. The real oneself circle into samsara, which means born into samsara. By whom? By your destructive emotions, your afflictions. And according to the Buddhist psychology, all your destructive emotions are called wrong consciousness, right? You know the wrong consciousness, right? Misperception, ignorance. So the wrong consciousness, ignorance, what that means? Ignorance, which means either you do not know what is the truth, either you completely misunderstanding, right? That's called the wrong consciousness, right? So therefore, in order to overcome your wrong consciousness, you have to cultivate your own realizations. Your wisdom will remove your wrong consciousness, not somebody else. That is why, as a Buddhist, we call it's completely self-responsibility, right? Self-responsibility. Therefore, Buddha says, what is one of his teaching? He says, "Nyegi chela tarbe lamtungi taba rangitula shebacha" in Tibetan word, which means I will show you the path to liberation. But you must know that it is up to you to achieve liberation. So his responsibility is to show us the path to liberation, right? How to liberate, how to overcome your destructive emotion. But actually, you have to do that. You have to understand, learn, cultivate wisdom. Your wisdom will liberate to you. So therefore, simple thing is one's own destructive emotion, ignorance, make wrong decision. That wrong decision accumulate wrong actions. You act wrong, mistake called wrong negative karmas. Those karma then affected, rapid, the result sufferings. That's how we circle, right? It's called the law of causality, law of karma. Now, in order to liberate from there, from your destructive emotion, from your ignorance, in order to achieve true happiness, first, I mentioned earlier, you need to overcome all your mental affliction. In order to do that, you need to learn yourself how to liberate, right? How to overcome, for instance, how to overcome your anger, how to overcome your attachments, right? How to remove your ignorance. So you need to learn from somebody else. Perfect teacher, the teacher who fully understands, who are full of knowledge, him or herself free from all this destructive emotion, who has sincerely love and compassion to others, very honest, full of knowledge. So that kind of teacher, we need to rely on, to learn from them. Otherwise, yourself do not know, so you need to learn somebody else, right? So rely on somebody else. That's called the Buddha. So as a Buddhist, we rely on Buddha as a teacher, not something miracle power. Buddha just bless you, next day you have no more suffering. Not that way. As a Buddhist, when we rely on Buddha as a teacher to learn from them, right? Then you have a teacher now, Buddha. Just Buddha teach you doesn't mean that will clean your ignorance, that will overcome your anger, right? In order to overcome your anger, what you need to do, just wish to free from anger, that's only, that wish will not clean your anger, right? Many people, they wish to become a very rich person, wish to become a very high, powerful person. That doesn't mean they will going to become a rich, right? Just having wish is not enough. So similarly, wish to overcome your destructive emotion alone will not going to clean your destructive emotion. You need the antidote attitude towards this destructive emotion. For instance, in order to overcome anger, what you need love, right? Love and compassion. If you feel sincerely love to that person, that love will help you to reduce your anger, right? Exactly the same. Each of these destructive emotion, the ignorance which we have, has antidote attitude. So in order to overcome each of these ignorance, you need to cultivate the antidote attitude called realization, wisdom. So the realization, the wisdom, your realization, your wisdom will overcome your anger, your ignorance, right? Not others. Buddha's wisdom will not clean your anger, your ignorance. Your dad and mom's wisdom will not clean your anger, your ignorance, your misperception, your wrong consciousness, only overcome by your wisdom, your realization. So actually, who will liberate you from samsara? Your realization. That's called dharma, right? Buddha's teaching, the dharma. The dharma is the one who straight directly helps you. It's like a medicine to cure your disease of destructive emotion. Dharma is the actual your savior. Buddha is just teach you like a doctor who give you the message. The real who save you from the disease, medicine, right? So the Dharma is like a medicine who can help to cure all your mental affliction. So second thing, you rely on Dharma, doctrines, right? Then third, that Dharma not easy, right? Like a love, compassion, just knowing the love, just knowing the ultimate truth alone not enough. You need to cultivate, you need to experience. Knowing love doesn't mean you have a love, right? You have to cultivate the love within your mind stream. In order to do that, you need supporter, sanghas, right? The Dharma supporter is called sangha. Dharma supporter, Dharma companion, right? So the Dharma companion, the sangha for the initial people, very important. Your environment is very important for the ordinary people. If environment is very negative, it's easily influence you negative. Environmental is very spiritual, very positive, it influences you positives. That is why the parents always concern the teenagers, make sure their children have a good friends. If you stay with the bad friends, easily influence you, right? The bad things. If you go always with a person who always use drugs or smoke or something, slowly you're becoming smoker or drug user or all kind of things, right? Easily influence. So environment is very important for the initial. When you become a very stable, then you don't need that much. You're very strong. But the initial, you need that. Therefore, Sangha, who's the spiritual friends, the Dharma communities, it's real Sangha, which is called the Arya beings, supreme beings, reliable spiritual friends. They, physical actions, their lifestyle, all about the Dharma. So those people, so if you share your life with them, it's influence you easily to encourage you practice, stimulate you to do the practice. So that is why, in order to cultivate Dharma, experiencing Dharma, you need the spiritual community can help you to inspire you. That's why you rely on Sangha, right? Now, the three things. First, to the Buddha. You put the Buddha statue in your altar alone, that's not big deal. That's not, you using Buddha statue is just for worshiping, just for offering something. That's very small benefit. As a Buddhist, they rely on Buddha means you rely on Buddha as a teacher, means learn from them, learn from the Buddha, right? Today in this situation, of course, you cannot see the Buddha. So that is why we use the substitute of the Buddha, the masters, the qualified teachers, Dharma teachers. So we rely on them to learn what the Buddha taught us, what the Buddha teach us. We learn that. Purpose of learning is to cultivate the dharma inside. When you cultivate dharma, that dharma helps you to reduce your destructive emotions, your ignorance, right? Your mental afflictions. When your anger, your attachments, your greed, your arrogance, your destructive emotion, when they reduce, your bad behavior, the negative action you acted using harsh word, telling lie, we call 10 non-virtuous behavior. These non-virtuous action will change, will reduce that, right? So cultivating the dharma, helping you to reduce the main causes of sufferings, which are your bad karmas, your destructive emotions, right? So that is how you becoming means you're getting closer to the liberation, which means freedom of your destructive emotion, freedom of your sufferings through practice the dharma. In order to practice the dharma, you need to study the dharma. That's why you rely on Buddha. And the purpose of relying on dharma, Buddha, is to cultivate dharma. In order to cultivate dharma, you rely on Sangha as your role model, your inspiration, right? Your dharma companion. So through relying on Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, then individual, the person, if you're really every day-to-day life to focus yourself to reduce your destructive emotion, that's called true Buddhist, real Buddhist, which means that, when we say taking refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, right? We call refuge. Relying on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, believe to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Why? For what reason? Because of the fear or concern about your destructive emotion, your negative karma, who causes so much sufferings. So you concern all these suffering and causes of suffering, then you believing Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha can able to help save us. Out of these two beliefs, you're showing all your convinced, right? Your faith and convinced and fully rely on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. When you be able to do that, that's called you take refuge. That's called you become real Buddhist, right? So otherwise, just reciting prayers and go to the temples and all kind of things we're doing, it's a little benefit. It's not the real main thing. It's little benefit. It's accumulated merits, right? The real Buddhist, which means it's working with one's own heart. That is why there's the one master, what you call the great Bodhisattva, a Tibetan monk is called the Geshe Ngawang. So he asked to one of his teacher called Dromtemba, which is the Bodhisattva. He is not monk, he's lay practitioner, but really, really great practitioner. He's the one of the main student of one of the top master from India during the 10th and 11th century called Atisha Dibamkara. So he asked to Dromtemba, say, what is the fine dividing line between dharma and non-dharma? Then Dromtemba replied, it is dharma if it becomes an antidote to delusion, means destructive emotion, afflictions. It is not dharma if it doesn't. So becoming dharma, right? Practicing, which means if it's becoming antidoting, means something directly helping you to reduce your destructive emotion, that means it's becoming dharma. If they're not, it's not dharma, doesn't dharma. So therefore, becoming real Buddhist, which means it's not just simple faith and belief, who really at least understanding Four Noble Truths means the suffering, and suffering causes by whom? What are the really causes, as what you call the causes of sufferings? Then what is the real happiness? The cessation of suffering. And that happiness, that cessation, how should we achieve? Truth path. It's not just simple prayer or something alone, right? Practice. You need to study, then you have to cultivate dharma within your mind stream, and your dharma will liberate you, right? So that is why the real Buddhists means who are understanding on all these concepts, then you put this practice into your day-to-day life. That's how you take refuge to the Buddha Dharma Sangha. Refuge, which means that, right? So when you're able to do that, any practice you do, you always look internalize. Buddhist is English word, right? And Tibetans, when we use for the Buddhists in Tibetan language called Nangba. Nangba in literally when they translate into English, which means internalize. Nangba means internalize. So the essence of Buddhism means who looking internally. You internalize your destructive emotion, your ignorance causes you suffer. So in order to free from suffering, you need to remove this ignorance. You need to change. So you're always looking internally to antidote to your own destructive emotions. That's called practitioner, right? So I think I will going to stop here first. So if you have any questions, then either directly related with the topics or some kind of question, maybe not that much related with the topics, doesn't matter, any questions you have or anything you disagree, very happily to discuss. You don't need to hesitate anything. Whatever I say doesn't mean everything's correct, everything's right. Actually, being a Buddhist always remains skeptical. That's very, very important. One of the Buddha, his own word in the sutra, he says, I write it in here. He says, "Oh, bhikkhus," means the monks and the learners, right? Learns one. What he say? Just as a gold is burned, cut, and rubbed, right? So in the ancient time, when you buy the gold, the person give you gold doesn't mean you accept it. You first, what they're doing, they burn it, they cut it, they're wrapping, make sure this is the gold, right? Through the investigate. If you find it's a real gold, then you accept it. So he said that exactly the same, just as the gold is burned and cut and wrapped, examine my word carefully. So he said, examine my word carefully and do not accept them simply out of respect. So do not accept them simply out of your respect. So that's how Buddhists, why it's mean. It is very important for the younger generation. You are the young, have a good modern education. So it's very important to know. Sometimes when the religious thing comes, sometimes you just believing, oh, that's how it is. Absolutely not from the Buddhist side. You always need to be investigate. If something contradict with the reality, even Buddha, his own word, you reject it. Rejecting Buddha's word doesn't mean in disrespect. That's very important. The reason is you have to understand, you have to cognize. Your wisdom will clean your ignorance, not Buddha's wisdom, not teacher's wisdom. Your wisdom will clean your ignorance. You suffer by your ignorance. So in order to overcome that ignorance, you have to cultivate wisdom. In order to cultivate wisdom, you have a freedom to research. Otherwise, how can you cultivate wisdom, right? You need to research, investigate. In order to investigate, you have to have full freedom. So always remain unbiased. It's called the student quality. One of the Indian master called Arya Deva, the main student of Acharya Nagarjuna, 2nd century. Really, really great philosopher. So Arya Deva says, the student being a student, there are 3 qualities: non-partisan, right, honest, then intelligent, second, third, diligent, effort. So non-partisan means not attached to any views. Oh, this is Buddhist view. You already attach. You already what you call believe that. That means you're partisan. You're biased, right? You will not going to learn that. So he says non-partisan, unbiased minded. Okay, this is Buddha says. This is the Buddhist philosophy, but doesn't mean I should attach, I should accept it. I should investigate. Is that real? Or if they have something proof, evidence, logic, proving something this is wrong, of course, you need to accept it. If you believe something wrong, that's called the wrong perception. That wrong perception result suffer. That's how the Buddhist, Buddhist way of how we suffer because of your ignorance, your wrong perceptions. All your distracted emotions are wrong perceptions, right? So in order to overcome this wrong perception, you have to understand the right. Yourself need to understand. In order to understand the right, you have to investigate yourself to find the reason. So if you remain with a partisan, bias, to believe something already, then how can you investigate? It's impossible. So that is why don't need to believe even Buddha's his own word. Then of course, my word is of course then, right? So that's why I'm saying, something you disagree, something you see this contradict, then it's very important to caution. You don't need to think, oh, that make disrespect to the master or blah, blah, blah. That's nothing. Main thing is you need to understand. So therefore, any questions you have, freely, without hesitate, be comfortable and ask, and don't expect, or I will going to give you all the answer, right? Don't expect that. So high expectation makes you upset. So rather, oh, this monk, what he's going to say, I will just look at what he's going to say. In the monastery, when we are very young, I'll give you a little story. The monks, where we grow up in the monastery, around 18 to 20 years, we need to study. Many people may think monks means just go to the temple and recite some prayer, keep quiet, something like that, right? Meditation. Not only that, we need to study more. If you not understand, how can you meditate? Not understanding, then what you meditate? You just breathe, meditation on breathing, that's simple thing, right? So in order to meditate, you need to understand. In order to understand, you need to study. That is why Buddhism, we have Buddhist psychologists, very profound, very deep explanation. Buddhist philosophy, variety masters, right? Explain different schools. Then Buddhist logic. Logic is very important. Finally, when you do the analytical meditation, without knowing the logic, it's struggle. So logic systems are very important. Then upon their Buddhist meditations and many others. So that is why we need to study all this philosophy, logic, all the what you call psychologies, right? And upon their meditation, ritual, some other things. So when we are very young time, when the many good students, some have quite good reputation. Oh, these students are very good, understand it. Then we always teasing the same monks. We're saying, okay, we will check how much weight this monk has, means how much knowledge they have. We will scale the weight, means we will investigate. So we examine, means we discuss, debate. So then when you debate, you learn so much things from there. Debating is not just to make them lose and win yourself. Debate means we're learning something you don't understand, something you disagree with this philosophy. You ask you this question: why you believe this? What kind of reason you have? If you believe this, they have a contradict with this reason, that reason. That's how you grow the wisdom, right? That's how we cultivate the wisdom. So therefore, as a fundamental Buddhist practice, comes with understanding on all this dharma, then you become more comfortable. Then when you put it into the practice, become more effective. Otherwise, just remain very surface, simple belief, just prayer, worshiping, small. If of course they are very good. I'm not saying these are rubbish. It's accumulate merit and virtues, but not that enough. The main goal is understanding the dharma, put effort. So, what you call non-partisan, honest person, not attached to any views. Then upon they are very intelligent, smart. Intelligent, when you study, when you good educate, learn, you become intelligent, right? Then diligent. Diligent means however what you know, you put it into the practice effortly, right? That's how you change your mind. Okay. Oh, now, yeah, it's question section now.
Okay, anyone has any question?
Okay, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
I'll ask you a question. It's pretty on topic about being a real Buddhist. How would you go about judging? Like I've been practicing for a few years. How do you think you should introspect and figuring out your own progress, whether you're improving?
Improving, there are many different ways. So the main thing is the Buddhist, the improving your practice means first, what's mean the practice, right? I mentioned earlier, according to the Geshe Ngawang, saying dharma means to antidoting one's own destructive emotion, right? That called practicing dharma, right? So through the practice, when you see maybe, of course, you cannot get the result within the day or a few weeks or a few months. It can take years, spend years. But used to be when you engage in, when you hear certain things which you don't like it, you used to become very angry. Now, still angry, but not that much. So you improve, means your anger is a little bit reduce it, right? Reducing a little bit anger. Maya, you muted some other, I can hear the voice. So what you call the reducing your anger, your greed, your arrogance, like these things you can see, that means you're improving your practice. When these things reducing, you can see your behave, physical behave, your speech, your tone, slowly a little bit changing. That's the main point of improving your practice. Then to do that, before improving means, like for instance, the meditation. Before, if you meditate, like for instance, like a stabilization meditation, like a breathing meditation, within that 1 minute, maybe your mind is jumping 10 times a minutes or 20 times a minute. Now, after a few months, maybe only 5 times jump, or only 1 time a jump, or maybe 2-3 minutes, your mind really remains stable. That means you improving your meditation. Your mental disciplining is improving. It's called what you call the samadhi, right? Concentration is improving. Your wisdom improving. Then your physical behavior is now changing. That means moral discipline is improving. Your concentration, mental discipline is getting better. Your wisdom is becoming sharper. These are the called improving your practice. But if you go to the knowledge level, then you go, before I do not know, now I know this. I know more. It's improving knowledge, Buddhist knowledge, right? Getting better understanding. But the purpose of understanding this is, I mentioned earlier, is something improving your moral discipline, your mental discipline, your physical, the moral discipline is physical, your mental, your disciplining, your wisdom, the inner realizations are something improving. That's the main improve your dharma.
Thank you, Geshe. You good, Randy? Okay, I think Brandon, I think you have a question, Brandon. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. So I was thinking of this question because when I started getting more invested into Buddhism, I learned about attachment and desire, and with that it comes comparison or desire to be, how you look or how you are. And I was thinking, because there's a very famous quote that says comparison is the thief of joy, right? And I was thinking, if that is so, or if that's true, why is it so whenever I surround myself that I think are like a role model or someone I want to be, is that comparison then? Because I feel like that I'm comparing myself to them, but I also feel like it's for the better, and I don't know the balance. So how should I go on with this?
Okay, we'll see maybe how much I understand your question based on my understanding. So if something not clear answer, you just directly go again the question, okay? So competition is the good things, compete, but the competition has a different way. One competition is you want to win yourself, lose other people. That competition is not good. That kind of, you grow in the school with that system. Always you should be better, then others should be loser. Right? Out of that, when you do, behind your mind, there's so much pressure there in back. Then other, when they win, you feel angry and you feel yourself as a loser, declining. So that kind of emotion, when this age, when you live with that, it's growing, when you're becoming adult, of course, competition is always everywhere. You go to the business, you have a competition. You work in the office, you have a compete, right? It's everywhere. You compete with your neighbor, your competition with your families here, that never finish. But competition comes out of greed. Oneself win, lose other. The emotion right now, it makes like a really strong, but the long term, that will create some mentally bad pressure, kind of anger, and easily loser. Eventually, it can create you stress or depressions. But the compete, which is we each other compete, helping, supporting each other, learn each other. In order to success, you have to have competition. Somebody there challenge, then you become a successful. So seeing the other side as not like an enemy or something loser, rather friend, supporters, each others. Through that, when you do the computation, you're mentally not that pressure. Even you win, not that much, too much ego. If you lose, not feel like you are a loser. So it mentally gives you balance and also helps you being a compete each other, means helping, supporting, so learning from each others. So that makes better relationship with others. So of course the competition is the good things, but the competing not out of bad mind, negative minds. Compete with out of friendly, supporter each others. Through that good environment compete, then helps your success, your job, same time, mentally less kind of the pressures. That's the one thing. Another question, what is there? You talk about desire, attachment, something. I don't understand what that part.
Yeah, so I was saying to relate to the topic of being a real Buddhist or being a Buddhist, I was saying whenever I was starting to become more invested or learning more about Buddhism, I learned about desire and attachment. And I said, with desire and attachment, a lot of the desire comes from comparing yourself. And so then I said, so I saw a quote or I heard a quote that's been said a lot of times, and comparison is the thief of joy. And that's just what I ask you was,
okay.
True, then what's the difference between me trying to have a goal and trying to have an objective? Is that still comparison or not? So
yeah, I mentioned comparison, which I mentioned earlier, but that's one part that's important. Don't be attached, but be love. That's how the Buddha is talking about, right? Don't be attached doesn't mean, or you just ignore them, you just stay away with those people, you nothing to do with anyone. That doesn't mean. It's not you put it yourself completely, what you call separating with the society. That doesn't mean that. Not attached, be love to all beings. So you can compete with the others out of love. So out of love, I want him or her be success. I want myself be success, not wish them to be loser, bad. I only. So I love them. They compete with me. They can learn many things from me. I compete with them. I can learn many things from them. I wish them to be success. So I myself be success. Out of love, you can do very good compete each others. So Buddhism is very much focused on attachment also, to how to deal with the attachments. The reason one is because the attachment is the one who creating so much problems. Anger, quite easy to understand. Everybody say anger is not good. It can hurt you, blah, blah. It's easy. But attachment, majority people do not understanding, right? Attachments. So that is why attachment is the one looks like it helps you, gives you some kind of supports you. But the long term, it's something. Oh, Maiha, you should mute your mic. I can hear everything, your secret. Just tease you.
Sorry.
Yeah. So like attachment, that is why, that is why, because for instance, like today that we have stress, worry, fear, there are many problems like mental issues that most of them creates by attachments, right? Somebody, when they make rumors to you, out of that you feel so sad. Some people ended up with a depressed, right? It's mainly they attach to their reputation, their fame. So that is why this attachment creates you so much fear, or you do not have them, you suffer. Even you have a very good power, you worry somebody will take over me. Somebody, it never ended. So fear, worry constantly because you're attached, right? That's why the Buddhism, the religion which is very emphasized to reduce this attachment, and also circling in samsara because we're attached to mundane pleasure. That's why attachment put us into the samsara. But at the same time, it's saying be love to others, learn to love. It's important to distinguish, distinguish between attachment and love, because I think for the ordinary life, in the mundane, when the wife and husband say, "Oh, I love you," right? Boyfriend, girlfriend can say, "Love you," love you. So that's love is romantic love. That's attachment. The Buddhist explanation of love is the metta, right? The metta love, which means genuine love, which wish them to be happy, right? That love is not attached. So that love, why you wish them to be happy? Because they want to happy. They want happy. Your love is based on their interest, not based on you. But attachment is very different. Attachment comes from selfish. It makes me happy. It's my children, my family. It's everything comes with the me. That's attached. Love is unconditional. It's for them. They want to live happy. So it's a fundamental cause. It's different. Love is based on altruism. Attachment is based on self-centered, selfish. So therefore, distinguish between love and attachment. Then we try to reduce the attachment and increase more love, right? Cultivate more love to all beings. So that's Buddhist kind of the message. Is that clear? Okay.
Thank you.
Any more question?
It looks like
Geshe,
there's one in the
Uh,
messages.
go ahead.
It looks like there's a question in there. I'm sorry, I think I talked over somebody. I didn't hear. Yeah, you want me to read it?
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, Drepung. You have traveled around the world and met many followers of Buddhism. What have you noticed most people struggle with?
Say again what it says.
So you've traveled around the world a lot, right? You've been to different countries. You've met a lot of Buddhists. Okay. What would you say that the main thing they struggle with? Most Buddhists, what is their main struggle? The thing they have the most difficulty with?
I think the most struggle is not understanding the Buddha Dharma properly. That's the one struggle. There are many other struggles. Of course, general, everybody, living in samsara, they always have struggle, family issue, job issues, mental issue, physical issue. That's common to everybody. But sometimes, as a Buddhist, they consider themselves as a Buddhist, but they do not understanding the real Buddha Dharma, Buddha's teaching. So not understanding the Buddha's teaching, they do not know how to do the practice. So they follow it just culturally, some rituals and prayer only that way, but they do not really understanding the Buddhism properly. So they're not really receive the benefit of the Buddha Dharma. For me, that's the one big struggle, not knowing Buddhism or Buddha Dharma properly, and they do not know the real Buddha Dharma. That's why they do not know how to do the practice properly. So that's the first struggle. And then there are many kind of the complicated situations. Buddhism has variety school philosophy, and each countries they're spreading Buddhism into, when they spread it, the cultural influence by a little bit different things around there. So they're seeing something, disagree with this or that, is what is that? Because not understanding the dharma. So the culture, of course, they have some tradition, the monks wear this kind of color, some kind of things wear that color. So it's kind of many complicated issues there. And that's how they sometimes, what you call, confused what's the real. So I think not knowing the Buddha Dharma properly, that's why many, being a Buddhist, one of the struggle is that complicated. And then general struggle, everybody has same. But I do not know that much about all the others. I go quite limited, not all over the world, travel.
Actually, I could kind of follow up on that question with a little more as well. That
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious, like, but the difference between people who like Westerners, like Americans, for example. Do you think I almost think they would understand Buddhism and sometimes more literally, or like they read about it more perhaps than people who are actually born into Buddhist cultures, like where it's just kind of part of the culture. They might actually have a harder time understanding it a lot of times. I don't know if you would agree with that.
That's fully agree. That's of course some who born into the non-Buddhist country, and some who born into Buddhist country, but are born into Buddhist country, the culture, they know the Buddhist culture, but they do not know the Buddhism really. So that is why some, even the Buddhists, being a Buddhist for whole life, when you give you the teaching of the Buddha's philosophy, they cannot believe many things. They have no idea. Even you go to talk about the philosophy, they think, what? Is the Buddhism have this? Buddhism means go to the temple, recite some sutras, offering, do bowing to the Buddha, kind of culture thing. Many of them have that. From that perspective, some who born into non-Buddhist country, there are many challenges. So those becoming Buddhists because of understanding the Buddha Dharma, not influenced by culture. That is why some who born in America and some non-Buddhist country, understanding of Buddhism is much better than people who born into Buddhist country. Of course, that's also. But and of course, into Buddhist country, there are some are very good understanding Buddha Dharma. Also, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, so I think we have like a few more minutes. Geshe, I think we should do a little meditation of like few minutes. I think
Sure.
it's yeah. So maybe we should guide it like a few minutes mindfulness meditation.
Okay. So yeah, just we have only a few minutes left, so we can do the one of the very simplest meditation, but before you do that, maybe, some of you may know, some of you may be not that much knowing. When we talk about the meditation, there are hundreds of thousands of different types of the meditation, right? So meditation is not just simple sit and focus on the breath, right? This is one. This is kind of from the Buddhist we call, when you go to the school, the first elementary school, where you learn the alphabet. Same, we first learn this mindfulness meditation, the focus on the breath. It's like a elementary, we're starting. So meditation, they have analytical meditation, stabilization meditation. Within the analytical meditation, there are so many. But today we just go very simple as the stabilization meditation, which, as I mentioned earlier, the breathing meditation, which simply is, we just disciplines our mind. So disciplined minds, which means your mind should remain just only single object, one object. Just sit there, not jump here, there, right? That's stabilization meditation. When you sit there, just sit, it's not enough. Sometimes you can sit on your chair, but you sleep, right? You are still sitting on the chair. It's not enough. So when we say the meditation, the quality, there are two things. Stability is your mind to remain on the one object, very stable. Stability with the clarity. Mind itself remain very fresh, alert, right? Intensity. So very clarity and stability with on one object. That's how we need to do, right? So when we're doing the breathing meditation here, so what we do, just present moment when you inhale, exhale, inhale, you just be aware that. Aware, inhaling, say, I'm inhaling now. When you exhale, say, I'm exhaling. Just aware the present moment of your breath. That's called the breathing meditation. One part of the breathing meditation. There are variety types. So when you do that, there are two features very important. Mindfulness. Be aware means be mindful on the object of your meditation, your breath, and same time, it's called the alertness or introspection, which means you always monitor your mind. Any little thoughts arises, recognize, right? When you sit on when your mind is concentrated on your breath, sometimes your minds jump, right? Shopping mall or some other else, or remember this friend or that friends. So when your minds jump that, you should instantly recognize that. So when you recognize, you don't need to stop. Some you can stop it, it's okay. Some, when you try to stop, it becoming more aggressive. So if this is the case, you just be aware, not stop, not judge with them, just come back on your breath. Just be remember on your breath, right? So we're going to do this kind of meditation for just 2-3 minutes. So during the meditation, actually it's called 7 physical postures, right? Meditation posture. Among the 7 posture, most important is keep your spine very straight. But that doesn't mean you keep your body also tight. Rest of the body remain very relaxed, right? Comfortable rest. And just remain your spine straight, and your mind should be fully aware on the present moment of your breath, right? We're going to do this only for 2-3 minutes. And after that, maybe I will going to guide a little bit like 1 minute self-cleansing meditation, right? So we'll start now. When you hear the sound of the singing ball, and you just keep fully quiet and be fully concentrate on the sound. After the sound completely disappear, then you should be aware on just present moment of your breath. Okay, so we'll start now. Now slowly, when your mind is really calmed down, you should look in your own heart. If you have any depressions or fears, worry, anxiety, stress, or any mental pains you have, you should recognize them. Any emotion, destructive emotions like anger, hatred, you have recognized all of them and visualize them as a form of smoke in your heart. Something which is really the emotion or thoughts which is really bothers you, recognize them and visualize them as a form of smoke in your heart. Then when you exhale, you should release those smokes with your breath. Take a deep breath and release them. Once again, take a deep breath and release them. Once again, take a deep breath and release them. Finally, you should visualize your mind to remain very clear, pure, and feel the joyness, the calmness of your mind. Experience the joy, the pleasure of pure mind. Okay, this is the one of the most simplest meditation, just for a few minutes. But sometimes, when you go to school and when you come back, when your mind is really disturbed, just do this small, only 3-4 minutes meditation that can help you. It's sometimes you feel very stressed, very angry or something, just do sit quiet for a few minutes and then recognize all these emotions, visualize them as a form of smoke. Then when you exhale, clean it. Don't hold it. If you hold it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, it's getting mentally so heavy. Then one day it's explode, right? Then very big problems. So that is why just do this kind of regular clean them. That will really helps. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. Geshe, would you like to do the dedication of marriage?
Sure.
And then Alexa gonna close it out for the day.
Okay. So you have a dedication prayer there?
Yeah.
Not
But
yet.
do you want?
Oh,
Do you want
okay.
to? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That one.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alexa. Okay.
Okay, here's the dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise.
Thanks, Alexa. Alexa, maybe I think for the other slide for the schedule as well, Alexa. I think the upcoming.
Yes, we have an upcoming session on March 30th on the law of cause and effect. So hope to see you there. And thank you, dear teacher, and everyone for being here.
Next week is the teaching.
What's your question, Yi?
Is there a teaching next week?
No, and March 30th.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Geshe, so much.
Thank you.
As always,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You.
Thank you.
Oh,
So we have a small meeting after the was. Oh, hold on, let me stop the recording.